My name is Zohra Ijtemaye. I'm originally from Afghanistan. I came to Canada when I was 7 years old, so it was September, and it was the first time I came to the reception house, and that was my first ever home here. So when I was younger, I have like vivid memories of being a lot younger and like back home and like having such fond different memories. And then I remember, as weird as it sounds, being on the plane and seeing like the first white person. And I'm like, is this real? And it was such a great experience, but also a very hard experience for me personally. I feel like I didn't know English at all, so that was one of the toughest things for me to. I had to already learn four different languages and to get English on top of that. I think in life it made it much harder to just continue being in the same pace as everyone else, but also not have the same resources at the time. But I never knew that until I grew up. So that was like the aspect my parents gave me of like, I just never knew I didn't have those resources. I remember like the fridge was full of food. It was just like so many families living together in this one house, so many kids, and you don't know any better. So like all these toys you play with that like now you know are like donations, but you don't like. I remember my favorite toys were like the piano and stuff, and so much of that. But like just like feeling so welcomed and like I think it was my first experience being in the backyard. They had a big deck and like I would sit there in nature, and that was the first like experience like of independence a little bit in childhood in Canada. So like, or being allowed to go across the street to the pond. It was such a peaceful experience that like that never. It felt like you come home. You know, and literally, and as cliche as that sounds, it was a home. It felt like you came home, and I remember my dad was like to my mom, like, "Yeah, I bought you this house," but it was one of the best like places to come to when we came here. Yeah, I was so young. I feel like I didn't really have a lot of choices, um, but I wanted to belong. And I think the only place I felt belonging was back home, and that was just because everyone was the same. It was the same culture, same. You were just so young, so you were used to it. But I think like what I really wanted was to belong, and I think I still struggle with that because I think it's like you learn you have to create a place for people to belong, even if it's not you. Um, but yeah, my hope was to be successful. My hope was to make my parents proud, which was like they left their home country. Uh, my dad was a doctor, my mom was an engineer, and like you hear that a lot, and people shrug that off a lot, but that's years of education that they just left. Like I can't imagine like that happening to me right now and just having to leave and not be resentful. But they were so gracious to bring me here. So I think like there's like that side where I cannot complain at all. But there is definitely the side of like you kind of become homeless. And I think that's something that as much as you grow, as much as you learn the language and integrate into society as much as you want to, you feel like an outsider. And I don't know if that has to do with just moving, but it's definitely something that resonates with a lot of people. Waterloo was so different. It's so diverse now. The reception house was like this house, and I remember I had we came in the van from the airport, and it was like, "Is this my house?" And I just met so many diverse people, and like It was so exciting. There was a pond right across. I'd never seen ducks. And it was so much excitement until it wasn't. And I had to, and like, you know, you have to leave and you find your own home. And I remember being in a motel and stuff like that, that like humbles you no matter where you are in life, or you're like, oh yeah, like you hear it from starting from the bottom, but you really don't know. Even like I feel like I'm starting from the bottom. So how much of a bottom did my parents start in? But they didn't let me feel it. It's just really, really interesting. My first winter, I think that's always the best one, and then the last one that you ever enjoy, because after that you really hate it. I'd never seen winter. I'd never done skating. You know, so many things. Poetry was a big part of me, and so like getting in school and being a part of like being more open to different experiences, and then learning English on top of that. I remember such a struggle. I remember to this day, like we were told we were going to the like pool, and I didn't know, and they're like, make sure you wear sandals, and I wore like these heels because that's what I thought sandals were. And I remember I was being like yelled at, like, I told you to wear sandals, and I just always would feel disappointed. So I think it became something where I became 1,000% more self-aware of every movement, every step I take, every thing I say. It was very, very, I think, like calculated after that because I wanted to belong. But like the food bank. And I know with the reception house, they would help you try to find an apartment, so apartment searching. Um, but it was like I was so young, so I always thought I was shopping when I went to the food bank. Or, um, yeah, not too much, but like I wasn't too involved in it. I was very young. But from what I remember, it was just like the trips to the food bank or like apartment hunting, and then us finding our first apartment. That was a big deal. Um, my mom and um, we were very similar people, and being here allowed me to get more of the voice, and speak up more. So whether it was social media, and she was very active on that, um, or different platforms. She taught me so much about speaking up, and like especially in environments where it's culturally inappropriate to. Um, I know, like even with this interview, it might not be something people might, you know, see as a positive thing. They might see it as looking down. But why do we never look back at where we started? And so, like my mom always like showed me to like keep going. My dad always showed me to keep going, and it was just like they never showed me. I would cry. I would cry every day if I moved to another country and spoke another language and like never had anything anymore and had 3 children, 5 children to take care of. So I think like what made me feel safe was like my parents. My parents made me feel safe to build a community in this city for us. It was not a very diverse community. There was one mosque. There was barely any halal food. Oh my God, the accidents of taking wrong food and everything. But like watching my parents struggle because people would treat them differently because of their accents taught me not to allow that to happen, nor treat people any differently. Um, and I think that hits home a lot. People sometimes think that, like, especially if they don't hear an accent, that life is easy. But I've seen and I continue to witness what people go through on an everyday basis, whether you're in a doctor's office or you're in a restaurant and you mispronounce a word, and it's just, it's not a nice feeling. And I just, yeah, I hate that if society turns into that, and I want our society to turn into a more positive culture, because it's like the reception house, like it was so many different colors of people that I'd never seen, black, white, different. I'm sure they'd never seen me either, and so like it didn't hit, it didn't feel unsafe. It felt so at home. I loved it. I remember we were in private school back home, and it was tough. It was tough, tough, tough. And as great as that education system is, it was very, 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 very tough and disciplined. And coming here, it was very different. I used to go to ESL classes every time, and that was really helpful. And I felt like I learned so much from I loved my teachers. It was one of the best experiences growing up. I feel like kids were so terrible to me. And I didn't know it. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, and that's what they meant. I remember when they would look be like, oh, what time is it? And I would look up and they'd be like, is it time for your dad to go to work? And it would be like 9:11. Or it would be just like throwing clothes in the showers, being upset for not like us like going to prom, all these things where you become so, again, don't feel like you belong in both worlds and you want to impress both worlds, that it becomes, it's a lot of pressure on young people to do well and make everyone proud and not to make any mistakes. And there was no social media back then. Now imagine now. So it's really tough. So school system, love the education part. Feel like it helped me so much. Feel like I learned so much. Uh, did not like being around people at all. Loved high school, but I think it was just one of those moments where you don't realize how not diverse everything is until you look back and you're like, wow, that was a tough, that was tough.